Yeah, I'm fine waiting. Good evening, folks. We're just waiting a minute for a few more people to show up. Thanks for your patience. We're just going to wait one more minute. So Grace, I think it will be myself, Ofer, and Meir at the beginning. Then after I introduce Ofer, it will just be me and Meir for that first part, and then we'll switch them.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you. Okay, I think Mechlaka, I think we should get going, right? Yeah. Okay. Can we spotlight Grace?
Yep, you and our two speakers are all spotlighted and we're ready to go.
I have to change my view. How come I'm not seeing all three of us?
I'm not sure. I pinned the three of you on my screen. I think that should be seen for everyone else.
I'm changing it to spotlight.
Yeah, Grace is right now. It's only
Hi, hi there.
I got the spotlight.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Um,
Hi everybody.
Jeff, we're not opening the mics at this point, if you don't mind. There we go. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We are thrilled tonight to have these two speakers from Israel who've taken such a courageous stance to express dissent with the dominant narrative, the consensus in Israeli society, and the price they've paid for that, and that they may continue to pay, in fact. So we're going to start with their individual experiences and then have them discuss the repressive atmosphere in Israel and why it's happening. The format is we're going to speak with Meir first, and then we're going to speak with Ofer, and then we're going to speak with both of them, and then we'll open it up for your Q&A. So the program actually goes until 8 o'clock, so it's an hour-and-a-half program. I'm going to just share my screen here so that you can see our two speakers. So Meir Baruchin has been a high school history and civics teacher for over 30 years. And you can see his doctoral thesis is quite interesting because he was talking about the US Congress involvement in the use of armed forces abroad. And
so Abby, you've got a little dialogue box over the window, so you have to remove that, or else it covers their face. No?
Say what, Cole?
There was a little pop-up window on top of your screen, and that comes through as a black box to the viewers.
Can you see it now?
Nope. Well, yes, actually, it's getting bigger. It's moving around towards the top of your screen.
How's that?
Better.
Okay. So Ofer Cassif is a member of Knesset. He represents the Democratic Front for Peace and Equality, which is called the Hadash party in the Knesset since 2019. He's part of the Communist Party of Israel, the sole shared Jewish-Arab party for which Hadash acts as its parliamentary wing. Okay. Grace, can you, as I'm sharing my slides, if it's not clear, could you let me know?
Yep, I will.
Okay. So I'm going to start, we're going to interview Meir first. And Meir, you're a high school civics and history teacher. Can you tell us briefly what you teach relative to the Israel-Palestine conflict?
I'm a history and civics teacher for 35 years. During the last 17 years, I've been teaching in a high school belong to the municipality of the city of Petah Tikva. It's near Tel Aviv. Let me talk first about my professional experience with the high school students. High school students in Israel, in general, ever since they are born, they get to hear only one voice, the national voice. That's the only voice they get to hear at home, at school, in the mainstream media. And for me, when I teach, the core of my class is the dialogue with the students, the democratic dialogue. And for me, a democratic dialogue is an argumentative dialogue. You cannot speak only in one voice. And it's not relates only to the Jewish-Palestinian relations. It's also religious and secular, Ashkenazi and Sephardi, men and women. But when it comes to Jewish-Palestinian relations, there is no students that can bring up the Palestinian voice. So I take it upon myself and present the Palestinian voice. At the beginning, some students feel uncomfortable because they are not used to hear the Palestinian voice. But as time goes by, they get to know me. They see that I'm not so dangerous, and a beautiful dialogue is developed, a dialogue that stays with the students for years after they graduate high school. I have former students that are 50-something, 40-something, and year after year, they get back to me and remind me, do you remember the class when we talked about? Now, over the years, it becomes harder to bring up the Palestinian voice. I also have a very active Facebook page where I put stories about Palestinians because for most Israelis, the Palestinians are nothing more than a vague image. If you say Palestinians, they automatically think terrorists.
Yeah,
the Palestinians have no name, no face, no family, no hope, no plans, nothing.
So let me show some of the Facebook pages.
Okay.
Yeah.
As I continue to speak.
Well, just hold on a second so they can read. So they can read the text associated with them.
This is from yesterday, I think. This guy was a journalist.
And it says the day before yesterday, he was eliminated,
Yeah.
killed during his coverage.
So I bring the personal stories and the pictures of the, yeah.
Yeah, so let's just, I just chose 3.
Okay.
Do you want to read this one, Meir?
There's a black, yeah.
Oh,
I
you
don't
can't
see
see it?
I don't see the whole text.
Oh, can you see the little
Meet
girl?
Lina Abdelhadi, 9 years old. She doesn't exist anymore, eliminating on February 18th. She won't finish university, won't start family. Well, this is a song. The last sentence is, most Jews are not interested. They don't know, and some of them don't want to know. They turn their head away. Anyway, I do that because I want
I just have
as
one.
many Israelis. Yeah, this was a video of a girl that is hungry, asking for a date to eat. And she's really starving. Over the past few days, 8 children in Gaza died of starvation. They didn't have anything to eat. Anyway, I do that because, first of all, I want as many Israelis to know what is done on their behalf. And I want as many Israelis to see the Palestinians as human beings and maybe communicate with them in non-violent ways. Now, as I said earlier, over the years, it becomes more and more difficult to do. Since the current war began on October 7th, I began posting about entire families that were wiped out in Gaza, and also personal stories of mainly women and children. And my employer, the municipality of Petah Tikva, didn't like that. I also have to mention that the municipality is being ruled since 2018 by an extreme right-winger, a big supporter of Prime Minister Netanyahu. So on October 18th, I was called for a hearing, and they didn't really want to hear what I had to say. The next day, I was fired. Apparently, on the same day of my hearing, the municipality also filed a complaint at the police station. I didn't know that by then. A few days later, the Ministry of Education suspended my license, so I couldn't go back and teach anywhere in the country. On November 9th, I received a phone call from Jerusalem Police Department. I live in Jerusalem, asking me to come for an interrogation. I asked on what charge. They said for sedition and incitement. On my way there, I called my lawyer, and he said that in order to interrogate an Israeli citizen for sedition and incitement, the police needed an approval from the general attorney. The police did ask for this approval, but was rejected. So they decided to interrogate me for 2 other charges. 1, intention to commit an act of treason against the state of Israel. 2, intention to disrupt public order. The minute I walked into the police station, they cuffed my hands and legs. They confiscated my phone. 5 detectives escorted me to my apartment and ransacked the place upside down, top to bottom. Then they took me back to the police station for first interrogation that lasted 4 hours. In the first part of the interrogation, they presented 14 posts. Most of them were before October 7th. There were posts from 4 years ago, 2 years ago. They asked me, what did you mean? What was your goal? What do you think someone who read your post will understand? The second part of the interrogation wasn't really asking questions. It was more of a rhetoric. When you install the answer inside the question, you don't let the other person choose his own answer. Those were leading questions. They tried to put words in my mouth. After that, I was taken to the jailhouse in the Russian compound in Jerusalem. I was categorized high-risk detainee, like the heavy terrorists. They put me in solitary confinement. No windows. I didn't know when it was daytime, nighttime. They took away my watch. I went inside there with my own clothes and stayed with the same clothes 4 days. The next day, the judge decided to extend my arrest until November 13th. The day before I was released, they took me to the second interrogation, and they used the same technique, trying to put words in my mouth. At some point, the interrogators said that my Facebook posts are just like the protocols of the elders of Zion. Now, I'm a history teacher, so I asked them, did you ever read the protocols of the elders of Zion? It's 100 pages. There was no comment. On November 13, I was released and began my court motion at the District Labor Court against the municipality of Petah Tikva and the Ministry of Education. On January 14th, I won the court case and got a temporary injunction that ordered my reinstatement, and also ordered the municipality and the Ministry of Education to pay me compensation, $3,500 each. They still didn't pay. I went back to school on January 16th. The principal didn't expect my arrival, and she asked me to give her 24 hours to prepare the school community. I agreed. And the next day I went to school was Friday, January 19th. And if you have the video of the reception I got, so you can see it in your own eyes.
I'm going to show that afterwards. We do have.
Okay. I also must mention, I want to say that these students are not my students. Mm-hmm. They are junior high students. I don't teach them. I don't know them. And you will see the reception.
I could show it now.
Go ahead then.
Okay. Hold on one second.
Yeah.
Can you tell me if you see it? Do you see it?
Yeah, that's it. Go ahead.
Okay, I think they get the idea, right?
Yeah, the cursing and the spitting. Anyway, the municipality lost the court case, so they began a systematic campaign of delegitimizing me. The students knew they got green light from the authorities. The day before, the principal sent me an email telling me she's anticipating students' demonstration outside the school gate, and she will take care of police presence and municipal security unit people presence. Practically, there was no police, there was no security people of the municipality. I was all alone, and the students got green light. They were released from other classes in other majors just to abuse me, to harass me. And it repeated itself 5 times. The municipality appealed, and the court hearing of the appeal took place on January 30th at the National Labor Court. Now, the National Labor Court refrained from giving clear verdict. They set a time frame of 2 months until March 31st. In that period of time, I will be videotape. They will videotape my classes and then broadcast it to the students. At the same time, the case will go back to the district court, this time for a permanent injunction. The court hearing will take place on March 20th. Okay, so this is basically my story. Now, if you want to ask me about, I also have to say that I get hundreds of response from my fellow teachers, my colleagues, telling me pretty much in these words, Meir, I'm fully behind you, but I have children to support. Meir, I'm with you, but I'm paying a mortgage. Meir, I'm with you, but my daughter is getting married. Meir, I'm with you, but we just started to redecorate the house. They are afraid to speak out. They know that every Israeli citizen, not only teacher, that will dare to show the slightest sentiment towards the people of Gaza, that would dare to criticize what we are doing in Gaza, will be politically persecuted, will go through public shaming, will lose his job, and in my case, be put in jail.
Yeah. Thank you, Meir, very much. Our hearts go out to you for what you've experienced. It's really just, it's horrendous treatment. I'm going to bring on Grace. Don't remove the spotlight yet. I forgot to thank you both, especially for joining us at this hour, because to our audience, it's 1:30 p.m. a.m. in the middle of the night in Israel. So we are very appreciative to Meir and Ofer for joining us. Okay, so I'm going to switch to, thank you again, Meir. So Ofer, I showed that slide. And again, you're a member of the Knesset, you're a member of the Hadash party, the Democratic Front for Peace and Equality, which is part of the Communist Party of Israel, which is the sole shared Jewish Arab party in Israel. So could you just briefly explain the principles that your party stands for, Ofer?
Sure. Good evening, first of all. Thank you for having me. Hadash is a front, is a kind of a coalition whose basis is the Communist Party. The Communist Party, under different names, exists for more than 100 years, many years before the State of Israel was established. And one of its main values, which has always been existed, is the partnership of Jews and Palestinians. And Hadash was established in 1976-77 around the Communist Party, following two events. One is the Black Panthers protest of, Oriental Jews, especially in poor neighborhoods in Jerusalem and other places, against the establishment for racism, anti-Oriental racism, and some of them found their political roof with us. It was more difficult for them to be part of a communist party, but it was easier on them to join this kind of a coalition, which includes the Communist Party, but does not necessitate one to be member of the party in order to be part of the front. Another event was the Land Day in 1976, which was a protest by Palestinian citizens, given the confiscation, yet again, of their lands in the Galilee. So, 6 Palestinians, their citizens, were killed. So that was the other incentive for forming the Hadash, the Democratic Front. There are 2 main bases, and it's not a coincidence that Hadash stands, as you said before, for Democratic Front for Peace and Equality. So one is indeed peace. Our basis, or one of our main principles, is the ending the occupation of June 1967 and the establishment of a sovereign independent Palestinian state alongside the state of Israel in the old territories that Israel occupied in 67. And we believe, and we've been saying that since 67, actually the very same day that the occupation began. We said that the only way to achieve peace, security, prosperity for both peoples is by withdrawing altogether from those occupied territories, including East Jerusalem, and allowing the Palestinian people, which is entitled to, like any other people, to enjoy to realize the right to national self-determination. And we still believe and say that in order to achieve peace, the occupation must be ended altogether. So that's one thing. The other thing is we said for peace and equality. So equality is indeed our main component or ideological basis. And we are talking about equality of all, across the board, gender equality, national equality, class equality, etc., etc. So we believe that the only way to make Israel a real democracy, which in our view is not, is by making the state and society real equal. And that means that any kind of supremacy must be ended, including Jewish supremacy, which characterizes the state since its first day. Yeah. So those are the main principles of Hadash.
Thank you very much. So what happened most recently is that you apparently signed a petition backing the case that South Africa brought to the ICJ, the International Court of Justice, to get them to determine that there was a plausible genocide going on in Gaza. And you faced harassment and intimidation for that. And I just want to share again the screen for a minute so that people can see the kinds of harassment you faced. One is this one here. Ofer, is that clear? Can you all see that?
Yeah, I can see that. That's part of the campaign of Ben Gvir's before the last elections. And it actually uses a quotation from the Bible in which says that it is a kind of appeal to God that may our enemies, be removed, and of course it addresses me and two of my faction comrades, Ahmad Tibi and Ayman Odeh.
Good. Okay, so that's one. And this is a billboard above a highway, presumably.
Yeah, it was quite huge, yeah.
Yeah.
In the middle of Tel Aviv, the highway of Tel Aviv.
Yeah. Okay, so the second one is, I'm going to show this very short video. This is Ben Gvir, for the people who don't know. He's standing on an airplane, and he's showing that there are 3 empty seats. And he says, it's in Hebrew, and he says, there are 3 seats here for the same 3 people, for Tibi, Odeh, and Ofer Cassif. Let's put them on the airplane and throw them out of the country. Right. So I'm going to share that. It's a very quick video. You're going to see him point to the three seats there.
יש כאן מקומות טיסה מצוינים, פשוט לשים אותם אחד אחד, טיבי, עודה, עופר כסיף, ולשלוח אותם. יש כאן...
So you see
obviously it's wrong, it's not business.
What?
I mean, it's wrong, it's not business class.
Yeah. So for our audience, I mean, you can see the kind of shenanigans and the harassment that Ofer got because of signing that petition. So...
those are actually from, I think it's 1 year ago. It's much before I signed the petition. But the harassment goes on. You're totally correct. Before the petition, following the petition, they just changed the excuses.
Yeah, right. So thanks for that correction. So, Ofer, you were apparently suspended for 45 days for supporting South Africa's case, And then the Knesset tried to expel you. And they put it to a vote about 2 weeks ago. And fortunately, it failed by 5 votes. So first, congratulations on surviving the vote.
Thanks.
And can you talk about what you went through over the last few weeks within the Knesset and outside of it?
Right. First of all, if I may just, to make things in order, I was suspended for 45 days from the Knesset by the Ethics Committee about 4 months ago, because in an interview, I criticized the Israeli government for the massacre that goes on and already then went on in Gaza. And so I was suspended. And as you said correctly, because of the petition, my signature on that petition, which was organized by Israeli citizens, and eventually almost 1,000 Israeli citizens signed that petition. The petition actually boils down to 2. One is the appeal in support of South African petition to the ICJ. So the petition first said that the ICJ must investigate support for South Africa appeal to investigate what's going on in Gaza, and that there is a real danger, or that there is genocide goes on, or that the crimes that go on there lead to genocide. And secondly, to stop immediately the war, which is, of course, to stop the bloodshed of mainly of Palestinians who've been killed by tens, thousands, and but also of the Israeli hostages and soldiers, which, of course, we do not want them to be killed, especially that they are sacrificed by a cynic fascist government for its own survival, nothing else. It has nothing to do with the security of the Israelis, and everything to do with as it were, the security of Netanyahu and his thugs in the government. So because I signed this petition, and look, this was very Orwellian, because in Israel since 2016, there's a law that allows members of the Knesset to impeach another member of the Knesset, which is, to start with, is very anti-democratic, because, of course, it paves the way to a tyranny of the majority. So if 90, to make a long story short, because there is a procedure, I'll skip all the details. I don't like to exhaust you too much, but eventually there's a need of 90 out of the 120 members of the Knesset to vote for the impeachment, so it would go on, and eventually the member of the Knesset is impeached. But the law is very clear, with all its shortcomings, and my objection to the law from the very beginning. The law says that there are only 2 bases to impeach, or to begin a motion of impeachment of member of the Knesset. One is supporting racism, which of course raises doubts about at least 80% of the members of the Knesset, unfortunately. And the other basis is supporting armed struggle against Israel. Obviously, neither of them is relevant to the petition I signed, but the member of the Knesset from Israel, Our Home, it is called Lieberman's party. So the one who initiated this motion argued that my signature on this petition is in fact support for Hamas armed struggle against Israel. Of course, this is Orwellian, because as we all remember, in 1984 of George Orwell's, one of the characteristics of the society, of this dictatorship in the book, is that lie is truth, and the lie is true, and and vice versa, and so everything is turned upside down. And obviously, it's very crazy to say that a petition that calls to stop the violence is support of violence. That doesn't make any sense, even logically, not to mention politically. But that didn't change anything for those who were interested in impeach me. But eventually, it was very close, because they had 85 out and they needed 90, so it failed. but the danger is grave, because 85 out of 120 actually voted to impeach me. And apart from my comrades to Hadash and another Arab party and one member of the Labour, those who actually didn't vote to impeach me simply disappeared. It's not that they came to the plenum to vote against the impeachment, they simply went out. So that shows that the vast majority among the members of the Knesset, including those who refer to themselves as liberals and Democrats, and let's not forget that in Yesh Atid, in the party that is supposed to be the alternative to Netanyahu, out of 24 members of the Knesset, if I remember correctly, 7 or 8 did vote to impeach me, and they call themselves liberals. So it did fail, but it also exposes or revealed what we knew before, that it's not only the Israeli society at large, but also the elected ones, the vast majority of them, first voted unlawfully because they knew that there was no basis for impeachment. The Attorney General of Israel, which also serves as the legal advisor of the government, and the legal advisor of the Knesset, both said professionally that there is no basis to impeach me. But this didn't change anything for those members of the Knesset who decided to vote to impeach me simply in order to silence the voice that I raise. Now, that's with the story of Meir's. I would like it to finish by saying that we should, put it in a larger context. Before the massacre of October 7, we all know that there was a coup, an attempt of a coup d'etat by the government under the sugar-coated term judicial reform. But the real intention of the government was actually to pursue a coup and turn Israel into a full-fledged fascist dictatorship. Once they failed, mainly because of the protest in the streets, following the massacre of Hamas, which we all condemn, of course, they use it as an excuse to pursue with the very same things and elements they wanted to pursue by this coup, by this so-called judicial reform. And I mentioned that because it's not only Meir and me. Hundreds and thousands of citizens in Israel, mainly Arabs, but not only, are under continuous political persecution and silencing. People have been fired from their workplaces, like Meir, because they posted or tweeted something not in favor of Hamas, perish the thought, but because they expressed sympathy for the people, the innocent people of Gaza, or because they raised their voice calling for ceasefire or against the war. Students have been suspended from their studies. It's totally forbidden to demonstrate in Arab cities now, altogether. And this is only the tip of the iceberg. So there are two sides to the same coin. One is the ongoing massacre in Gaza, and by the way, ethnic cleansing in the West Bank. Yep. And on the other side of the same coin, a serious, a firm, and very rapid process of turning Israel into a fascist dictatorship. And those are combined, of course.
Very good. Thank you so much, Ofer. I'm going to bring Meir back in. So first of all, it's so sad and incredible what you've both been through. And I think this audience would applaud you heartily for taking such a principled moral stand. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So you just spoke to, yes, and people are complimenting you in the in chat that they are in awe of your courage. And so you just talked about the silencing dissent, the danger of, it's already a fascist state, right? And you are examples of individuals challenging the Israeli consensus, the Israeli narrative. but I'd like to talk about what you just touched on, Ofer, in terms of the collective resistance. I don't know if people saw the video of the protests that happened in Tel Aviv just a few days ago, and I'd just like to show a very short clip of that. Can you let me?
Has there a different perspective about the entire country, about security and the war, and
people come back and be safe.
You could see that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So we know, and you mentioned this, that there were hundreds of thousands of Israelis in the street before October 7th protesting against Netanyahu and the government. And now, after October 7th, that disappeared, maybe because people were in so much shock. And then a few weeks after that, it started again with people in the streets calling for a return of the hostages and a ceasefire. So one question is, would the protesters be calling for an end of the assault in Gaza if it weren't for the hostages? So I'm going to let you speak to that.
Who's going to be first, Meir?
Unfortunately, I still don't see the mass demonstrations of people expressing their rage. I think what happened to us on October 7th was not only human catastrophe, but also moral catastrophe. I think many people that hold themselves to be liberals, humanistic, they lost every moral boundary. And if you go out in the streets today in Israel, almost 5 months after the war began, you hear two basic arguments. Some people say, I don't care, we kill innocent civilians in Gaza, including women and children, after what Hamas people did to us on October 7th, they deserve it. Other people say, it's too bad we kill innocent civilians, but Israel is not responsible. It's all Hamas's fault. That's what you get to hear. And I resent that.
I agree with Meir, but I have to add that you can see that more and more people go out to the streets to demonstrate against the war, calling for ceasefire. But at the moment, most of them do that because for the sake of the hostages, which, by the way, I share because I do worry for the hostages. I do care for them, and I know they are dying under those terrible conditions and what they are, they've been going through in the hands of Hamas. But of course, that's not the only thing. The other thing, is the total destruction and the death toll in Gaza. I mean, we now know that there are more than 30,000 people who were killed in Gaza, and the death toll is probably much higher. And of course, there are many more injured. The destruction is total. I think almost 90% of the of Gaza Strip was destroyed. Buildings, no medicine, no hospitals, no schools, no shelter, no water. Dehydration, hypothermia, and starvation. So those amount to clear-cut war crimes and crimes against humanity. And the fact, as Meir said, that the majority of the Israelis simply don't care. And by the way, some of them even celebrate that, and they don't even hide it. It's not even implicit. Sometimes it's even explicit among ministers and members of the Knesset as well. So it's not only that there is apparently genocide that goes on, but also, and even more so, there's a culture of genocide in Israel now. But as I began to say before, still thousands of people do go out to the streets, and some of them, although they're a minority, some of them do call to ceasefire, to end the war for the sake of the people of Gaza as well. And by the way, some of them are families of Israelis who were killed and kidnapped.
Yes.
I keep in touch on almost a daily basis with their families, and some of them are good democratic, even activists, and they say very explicitly they oppose the war from the very beginning. They don't seek revenge. If the Palestinians do not enjoy prosperity, then the Israelis cannot enjoy that either. And I believe that although it's gradual and too slow, but I believe that the public opinion does shift a bit, and one proof or indication is that the violence by the police against the demonstrators, including hostages, relatives of the hostages, the violence by the police is on the rise on a daily basis. Terrible violence.
Yeah, thank you. So you just mentioned this, Ofer. I had seen in a demonstration that there were some people calling for an end to the occupation, very small number. And what I saw was the police coming and knocking down their signs. So what are you seeing about, what are you both seeing in terms of the numbers of people who are out in the streets protesting the occupation, or who are maybe more ready to do that now?
Look, let's not forget that there is a violence and many obstacles to go out and demonstrate against the war too. As I said before, in Arab cities, for instance, it's totally forbidden to demonstrate.
Yeah.
And for example, 1 month ago, more or less, we organized more than 30 anti-occupation and anti-war and peace organizations. We formed a kind of a coalition. And we organized a demonstration, a Jewish-Arab demonstration in the city of Haifa. But it was very limited, not only in number. For instance, the police, it was upheld by the Supreme Court, by the way, forbid us to exceed 700 people. And we were confined to a very marginal and small corner in the city. We were not allowed to march. And during the demonstration, policemen entered among the demonstrators to tear some signs apart, and even to arrest people. It's even forbidden, for instance, to hold a sign, a placard that says "Stop the massacre." It's forbidden. The police takes that brutally and sometimes even arrests people who hold such a placard. I used my immunity to hold it. Others were attacked by the police when they held such signs. So one of the reasons, I do not say the only one, perhaps not even the main one, but one of the reasons that you do not find enough demonstrators is because some people are afraid.
Right. Yeah. So, that leads, and Meir, maybe you can speak to this next one. That leads to the next point about the Palestinians that we tried to invite to this webinar. I think Meir tried to reach out to some Palestinian friends, and they've expressed fear, which is what you just said. They're afraid of speaking out. We've reached out to Palestinians who said they're afraid of speaking out. So can you talk about what's happening with the Palestinians who want to speak out? Or who do speak out? I think of like Issa Amro as somebody who does speak out. But what's your sense of that, Meir?
Look, just a few hours ago, I attended a conference in Van Leer Institute about the recent book of Hannah Arendt that was published in Hebrew, The Crisis of the Republic. and there was a Palestinian speaker. And even in Van Leer Institute, that was just a few hours ago, there were some right-wing people in the audience that shouted at him and didn't let him to finish his lecture. You have to understand the atmosphere today in Israel. Someone wrote a note about a McCarthyist atmosphere. It is a McCarthyist atmosphere without a doubt. We are living in time of witch hunt in Israel. If you dare to speak against the government's policy, if you dare to show sentiment towards the Palestinians, you will be persecuted. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, thank you.
May I?
Yes, please.
I totally agree. That's reality now. I give you just very short examples. 2 days ago, directors, creators, artists, Palestinians and Israelis, won the first prize in a movie festival in Berlin.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And one of them, Yuval Abraham, a Jewish Israeli, a leftist, anti-occupation one. The movie is a doco regarding the ethnic cleansing in Sapir Yatta, South Hebron. So he gave a speech against the occupation. And when and there was a discussion in the national TV of Israel regarding his speech, and the subtitle during the discussion, the studio was the anti-Semite speech by the director. So it's not only that we live throughout the McCarthyist era. It's not only the violence, the silencing, the political persecution. It's the shaming and demonization of anyone who dares, as it were, to raise an alternative voice. And it's not a surprise that people are terrified. Of course they are, especially Palestinians, because they are, the main scapegoat, always, especially now.
Yes. So
one more thing I'd like to add, okay? I'm paying a personal price, okay? I lost my job and I'm being politically persecuted, but I keep telling myself all the time that the personal price that I'm paying is really nothing comparing to the price the Palestinians are paying for decades.
No doubt.
And had I been Palestinian and they would put me in jail, it would have been completely different. The fact that I'm Jewish played a key role. Had I been Palestinian, there would be much more violence by the wardens.
Absolutely.
And
you told me that you heard shouts from the neighboring cells.
Yeah, it's the nights in the jailhouse. You hear the cries of the Palestinian detainees. It's the horrific nights.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Well, thank you so much. And the fact that you both spoke out is even more incredible and laudable in the face of this McCarthyite atmosphere that you and we are living in. By the way, Yuval Avraham, the filmmaker, got death threats for the speech that he made in accepting the film award.
Yeah.
So, folks, we're going to open it up in 1 second. Cole, when you're ready, even in a few minutes, if you want to show the action, but I think he's busy at the moment. So we're going to go to Q&A.
I'm available, Abby.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Do you want to do it now, Cole?
I'm willing to if you want me to. Yeah. Here goes. I actually have a bonus for you. I have 3 actions to complete tonight.
Oh, no, make it short.
Make it pretty short. The first one is no military aid to Israel. As you know, whoops, what did I do wrong? The military aid bill for Ukraine, Israel, Taiwan is in the House of Representatives, so we want to send messages to vote against that, number one. Number two, if you're in Massachusetts, there will be a presidential primary election on Tuesday. We want you to vote no preference. In other words, we don't want you to vote for Joe Biden. We want to follow the example of Michigan and send a message to Joe Biden to vote no preference to show that we are unhappy with the genocide that is being spent with our tax dollars. And number three, this was actually contributed by a viewer tonight. There's a petition to reinstate Meir Baruchin, so please fill that one out too. This was submitted by Stanley Heller in Connecticut. So we got 3 actions for you to take, and hope everyone will take all 3 actions tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Stanley. We didn't know there was a petition for you, Mayor.
Didn't know.
Didn't know. Super. All right. So folks, if you would, thank you, Cole. If you would put your questions in chat, and then Methlika is going to help me select some questions. Go ahead, Methlika.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Abby, and thank you, Ofer and Meir. You've both been incredibly inspiring. Thank you so much. So for our first question is from Wayne, and he asks, we saw the video of the students cursing and throwing things at you when you came back to school. How did you react to the taunts by your students? Did the school administration support you or penalize the students for their behavior? This is from Meir.
Okay, it wasn't a surprise for me. When it happened, I practically sealed myself inside my body, and I didn't react in any way. I just kept going straight. They spit at me and cursed me. It got almost to physical violence, and like I said before, they got green light from the principal and the municipality to harass me. It went on in the WhatsApp groups of the city and the city networks. They decided to make my life miserable after they lost their court case. It didn't surprise me. But I decided not to respond.
Yes, absolutely. We saw that in the video. You weren't reacting at all. There's just a follow-up question to the same one, Mayor, which says, have the students' attitudes moderated at all since then? Have you had a chance to process this with them and with your students?
No. They refused to enter my classes. I was literally under siege inside the teacher's room. The students were knocking the door and cursing me. Every time I tried to get out, they turned more violent. So I just stayed in the teacher's room under siege.
Thank you. Abby, do you want to take the next one, or should I?
No, you go. You go.
Okay. So this is, I guess, for Ofer first, and then Meir, if you want to answer as well. Do you expect the ultra-Orthodox to take full control and overwhelm the secular?
The risk exists, but because not only demographically, that the more and more, ultra-Orthodox, there are more and more ultra-Orthodox in the country, but this is not only, this is not primarily a demographic issue, but a political one. The problem is that the youth of the ultra-Orthodox, as opposed to the past, are turning much more to the right, to the far right. And one of the reasons that the current ultra-Orthodox parties are turning more and more to the extremism far to the far right, as opposed to the past, because they weren't like this, in the past. One of the reasons is that they are challenged by Ben Gvir and Smotrich. Among the supporters of Ben Gvir and Smotrich, who are clearly fascists, if not worse, There are many young ultra-Orthodox, and in order not to lose them, so Shas and Yahadut HaTorah, the two ultra-Orthodox parties at Knesset, they try to be more and more rightist in order to bring back or not to lose those youngsters. So there is a serious risk of, I would say, fascization combined with fundamentalist religious ideas. The risk is grave.
Thank you.
So the next question is, can you tell us how the fascism in Israeli education or the curriculum affects the teaching of other subjects? Is there the same level of restrictions at the university level? And is there any movement from professors to open up the curriculum?
I'll take that, if I may. Look, academically, I focus on American history. My main topic is war powers in American political system. But 12 years ago, I received some authentic material about the war of 1948, about the Nakba, the catastrophe, the Palestinian catastrophe. And I read a lot, and this was material that I wasn't aware of. So I decided to check it. And I went to the IDF archives. And the first thing I was amazed to discover that in the IDF archives, there are something like 12 million files. Only 50,000 are open to the public. The rest are still undercover, okay? And in 2018, Prime Minister Netanyahu extended the cover 20 years. So when there will be the 19th anniversary to the war of 1948, they may open those files. I read some classified material. I can tell you that I was shocked of what I read. And here in Israel for almost 76 years, curriculums are being written. History books are being written. We are training history teachers that are entering classes year after year after year and fill the students with lies. They say nothing about the Palestinians. I'll just give you an example, okay? When they teach about the UN partition resolution of November 29th, 1947, okay, there is no discussion about the fact that in those times there were 600,000 Jews in Israel and 1,200,000 Palestinians in Israel. And how the partition was done, the Jews got almost the entire coastline, okay, including the water sources. The Jews got the Negev, where the population was 1-9 in favor of the Palestinians. Now, you show me one nation that would accept this partition, okay? But nobody's asking this question. Nobody is discussing this in class, okay? The curriculums are really boring, and they bring only one voice, the Zionist voice. There is the Palestinian voice is absent completely, okay? They don't know anything about it, not to mention that Jewish students are not going to school with Palestinian students. They don't play football with them in the afternoon. They don't prepare for an exam together. They don't see them during their first 18 years. And when they do meet them for the first time is when they go to the military.
If I may add, may I?
Yes, please.
Thank you. I was before I was elected to the Knesset. I worked as a professor at the university for about 20 years almost. And what Meir said, it's true also of the curriculum at the university. And in the last decade or so, there are fascist student organizations or movements that actually persecute university professors who try to, reveal the things that are hidden throughout the studies of the elementary school and high school, etc. So it's not only that things are hidden by the state, and what Meir said is totally accurate, but also there's a persecution and chilling effect against those professors who do want to expose and reveal the truth. And of course, now it's even worse.
In fact, sorry, Metlika, in fact, Ilan Pape left because of threats against him and his family.
Yes, although he's back to Israel now, but it is true. And of course, there are many stories regarding, students who wanted to write dissertations about things that are forbidden, as it were. There's a very famous, or if you like, infamous story regarding the research about the massacre of Tantura.
Tantura, yeah.
And it's only, again, it's just, the tip of the iceberg, because there are so many other things that are hidden in the archive and by other means. So even academic research is not totally free here.
Thank you, Ofer. This next one is for you. So have you met or are you planning to meet with any US lawmakers? The questioner asks, I know a Democratic lawmaker recently returned from Israel and said, based on what she saw, she's calling for a ceasefire.
Look, yes, I'm very interested, of course. I must say that for 1 year I've been trying to contact Bernie Sanders, but I haven't got any reply from him. I sent him 2 letters regarding pogroms committed by settlers against Palestinians, and I actually begged his assistance to stop those. And I'm talking about months and months ago. I have never got any reply or anything from him. I'm saying that because I was quite disappointed. I'm not disappointed anymore because I see there's no need to have any expectations. So once you don't have expectations, you are not disappointed, But I'd be delighted to meet whoever is ready to listen and to help us. We do need international assistance for sure.
That's very encouraging to know of her, because there's so many people who are, engaged in congressional outreach, and it would be great to have you in one of those meetings and give your direct experience and share that. So thank you so much.
Yeah, inshallah.
Inshallah.
So I don't quite understand this question, but it says, what, if any, change do you anticipate from the recent case brought before the ICJ regarding the legitimacy of Israel's foundation arising from the Balfour Declaration? Is that a clear question?
No. What was the word before foundation? I haven't heard.
Regarding the legitimacy of Israel's foundation arising from the Balfour Declaration. And if we don't understand it, we'll just go to the next one.
Look, I'm a politician. I can answer a question that was never asked, if you like.
Let's try another one. So this is to Meir. My question is, I assume that you're part of the Histadrut Union. Did it do anything to support your rights?
They did absolutely nothing, nothing. 4 years ago, I had a very similar story. I was teaching in the municipality of Rishon LeZion, in addition to my teaching in the municipality of Petach Tikva, okay? And then I went with the teachers union. So they really sacrificed me. There's a give and take relations between the teachers union and the municipalities. Here we'll sacrifice this teacher for you. Next time you owe us, okay? I never met the lawyer that they appointed me. I don't even know his name. So this time I picked my own lawyer. And the teachers union never said one single word. Okay, my story goes on for months. They never said one single word. They even refused to help me pay my lawyer his salary. So they never said one single word.
Wow.
And I'm a member of the teachers union 35 years.
Wow.
Thank you, Meir.
May I ask a question or clarify a question?
Oh, I'm sorry. We're taking questions in the chat function. So if you could submit your question there, that would be lovely. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. I'm on an iPhone and I don't have that capacity.
Is that Macy? Are you asking about the Arab League case?
I wanted to clarify about the Balfour question.
Go ahead.
About Israel. Israel was formed as a secular state on lands belonging to Palestinian people. And there are some who are thinking that Israel was wrongly formed to begin with, understandably formed, but wrongly formed from a legal perspective and perhaps from a moral perspective. And the question is, should Israel remain at all? I think that's really the thrust of the question.
Okay, thanks, Macy.
Who would like to answer
that? First, perhaps formally Israel is established as a secular state, but in practice, I think it's not accurate. That reminds me, that Ben-Gurion, the first prime minister, said that God doesn't exist, but he promised us our land. So if you like, that's the basis of the state. So it's not exactly secular. Now, look, my party and myself, that's the reason I'm in this party, not another, we think that Israel as a sovereign state has the right to exist. It was established by colonialism, it's true, but actually, if you look around, most of the states were established by colonialist powers, including the United States. Let's not forget that. And of course, the state of Israel has, in my view, the right to exist, but it has no right to occupy. It has no right to discriminate. It has no right to oppress. And definitely, it has no right to commit war crimes. So our struggle, and not accidentally, I use the term our in plural, our struggle is not against the state of Israel, is against the policy of the Israeli governments in order to change the character and the type of the state so it will serve justice and its citizens as a whole. And I think that the Balfour Declaration is not that relevant to this. It may be relevant to other aspects, but not to the current, the present view that we hold. Israel has the right to exist. It has no right to do whatever it likes, like oppressing, occupying, depriving, etc., etc. We want the state of Israel to be a real democracy. That's our struggle.
If I may add one point, Israel was established as a Jewish democratic state. That is what I'm supposed to teach in the civics curriculum. Now, I think there is no Jewish state. I think Judaism belongs to the individual, not to the state. I don't want the state to tell me how to get married, how to get divorced, how to be buried, what to do or not to do on Shabbat, what I may eat or not eat. This is for myself to decide, not the state. okay? I think the expression of Jewish state is a fascist expression. It treats the state as a living creature. That's fascism. And when you define the state as Jewish state, it cannot be a democracy because there will be no equality. The Jewish ethnic group will have the advantage over the non-Jewish groups. So I think that the only democracy can be the state that belongs to all the citizens in equal manner.
Thank you both for that. So this next person has been following groups like B'Tselem, Yesh Gvul, Peace Now, and would like to know the possibility to grow a movement against the Zionist authoritarian government. And they add, much like that happening in the US. I didn't know that's happening in the US, but can you respond to that in Israel?
I'm not sure I understood the question.
So there's groups like these peace groups like B'Tselem, Yesh Gvul, Peace Now. And what is the possibility for them to grow a movement against the Israeli authoritarian government?
Some of those organizations are, limited to specific subjects, and they actually prefer, and I totally understand that, to refrain from wider political views such as authoritarian, Zionism, etc. Some of them. So I wouldn't like, to speak in their names. I think that wouldn't be nice of me. I can say that in my view, look, I belong to a party which is not Zionist. I myself consider myself, and I've been saying that very explicitly in the Knesset too, as anti-Zionist for reasons that emerge from what Meir said before, my objection to inequality, to my objection to any kind of supremacism, etc., etc. I think that at the moment, the main political combat is against the war, of course, and the occupation, and I think that in such struggles, there is a need even to cooperate sometimes with Zionists. There are some Zionists who oppose the occupation and the war. And I have a political and ideological debate with them, but still there's also some platform to cooperate and to join forces, like the example I gave before, the objection to the occupation. So unfortunately, we are far from a stage in which the authoritarian type of Zionist government is going to be, is the main subject to tackle. We are far from there. There are many other more urgent issues to address.
Sure. Thank you both, Ofer and Meir. I have another question, and it's about, since October 7th, we've seen such a huge mobilization here in the US. There's so many protests happening. There's so much congressional engagement happening regarding what's going on in Gaza. And most of these are being spearheaded by young Jewish Americans, right? Whether it's Jewish Voices of Peace or If Not Now, and so many other groups. And how is that perceived in Israel? Is that something that is, noticed, acknowledged? And how are people in Israel, whether it's the government or just regular people, responding to that?
Meir, you want to start or shall I?
You go ahead first.
Okay. Well, sometimes I think that this government, the Israeli government, and especially the prime minister, apart from other problems and issues they have, also you have a kind of psychological suppression, because it seems they either do not really understand the changes that the American society in general, the American Jewry in particular, go through, or they don't want to know what's going on there. They simply, and sometimes, when they do refer to, like the wonderful demonstration that was in the Congress, I think, a few months ago, just after the assault on Gaza began, and under the slogan, "Not in my name." So, there is this attitude of the government and many in Israel that Meir and I know very well. And when they call us self-hatred Jews, or auto-anti-Semites. So they say the same about those people. I'm not impressed by that. I really want to use this opportunity to salute those brave and courageous people in general, not necessarily Jews, but also Jews who are not afraid to raise their voices, even when it's tough, to get into the Congress to do so, to demonstrate and to shout against the crimes that go on, calling for a ceasefire, to end the war, for peace, ending the occupation, etc., etc. I really want to salute them. They are magnificent. And I hope they continue. We do need you and them.
Thank you, Fair Meir.
I think the picture that most Israelis see is completely different from the picture that is seen elsewhere around the world. The mainstream Israeli media simply doesn't show the tendencies within the young Jewish voice in the US. I think many Israelis, maybe even most Israelis, are still locked on October 7th. They don't see forward. They are in a movement between neurosis and psychosis. They are in a situation that psychologists call a borderline, in collapsing. They are in a sense that the American novelist James Baldwin called, and I quote, "I imagine one of the reasons people cling to their hate so stubbornly is because they sense once hate is gone, they will be forced to deal with pain. And many Israelis still don't want to deal with the pain, so they prefer to stay with hate."
Yes. Yeah, that's so powerful, Meir. Gidon Levy has said that Israelis don't see what's going on in Gaza because it's 24/7 coverage of the hostages and those who've been released and what's going on in Israel, which confirms what you just said, Meir, about they're also not seeing what the American Jews are doing, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Ofer, I have one last question for you, which is that, so 85 members of Knesset voted in favor of the expulsion. You're the only one who voted against the South African case that they brought to the ICJ. What about the other members of Hadash or the United Arab List, who I imagine supported you, but they didn't sign the petition? So what was going on for them during this expulsion thing?
I cannot, speak in the name of another list. I can only speak in the name of my colleagues in Hadash Ta'al. They didn't object the petition or something like that. It was totally coincidental, and that they didn't sign it. But I've got a massive support from my comrades and from the faction, from the list, and from the party comrades, from Hadash, huge support, and I'm very grateful that I have such good friends, who really helped me to go through those days, which were not very easy, and so, but neither is against the petition for sure.
Yeah. Mechlika, maybe one more here, one of the later ones.
Sure. There's one very big one. Well, maybe both can answer that. How do you view the one state project of 20 years ago or more?
Ooh, that's a big one.
That is a big one.
We only have a short amount of time. Do you all have a short answer?
The one state solution, you said?
It says, how do you view the one state project of 20 years ago or more? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Maybe we pass on that.
Well, there's a lot of talk here among the Biden administration about a two-state solution. Is that something? While Palestinian activists talk a lot about just equal citizenship and not a two-state solution because we're way beyond that because of the settlements and everything. So which of the two do you two perhaps lean towards?
Look, ideologically, ideally, I have no objection to one state, but practically, realistically, I do support the two-state solution because the only alternative is one apartheid state. There's no reliability and an availability of one democratic state, none. And by the way, the events of October 7th only strengthen this position of mine. So the two-state solution is a must. But once it is achieved, afterwards, upon consent of everyone involved, there might be, a transformation towards one state or confederation or federation or whatever. But the Palestinian people has to enjoy its own national self-determination, its own sovereign state. That won't happen in a one state. So the two states solution, even if a temporary one, in my view, is a must.
Each option has its advantages and disadvantages. Unfortunately, I cannot see the two-state solution becoming reality. I don't know how can we evacuate. I wish we could evacuate the settlers, 700,000 settlers, but I can hardly see it happening. So I think the one democratic equal state is, so to speak, more realistic, but it's also...
So at last we found something that we disagree about, huh?
Well, we are so grateful to both of you. Thank you so much. I don't want you to go yet because I want you to see. So Meflaka, thank you.
Thank you all.
I want you, don't go yet because I want you to see something.
Sure.
Because I would like us all to salute you all for the incredible courage and principled stance that you've taken. So can you all, audience, could you please applaud them in whatever way you can to show them your support?
Nice.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. We hope you get a good night's sleep, Ofer and Meir. Thank you for joining in the middle of the morning. Thank you.
And
all the best. Thanks so much. Have a nice day.
Shalom.
Nice evening.